Hello, here we go with Chapter 2, Seagrove Caves. This is for DMs to walk through the adventure and find out what is upcoming in the next session, or just in Chapter 2. So if you're going to play it, I would not watch this video, but go watch another one of my videos. For the rest of us, here we go. This chapter assumes the characters come here before going to the wreck of the Compass Rose. If you remember, there's a shipwreck that they could go to. You can do these levels out of order. So chapter 1, you're thrust there. But the next 4 chapters, you could try and do each one out of order. The 4th one has something like a bridges down and you can stop your players from getting there. But 2 and 3 can be interchangeable. Every time they do a chapter, they level up, apart from level 1. This is the Sea Caves on the southwest side of Stormwreck Isle. They are inhabited by an unusual colony of myconids, which are mushroom folk. Fungus people, who normally live underground. They can't abide sunlight. These myconids used to welcome visitors now and then. In particular, they traded with Tarek from Dragon's Rest, giving him rare fungi that grew in their caves in exchange for food scraps and other waste from the cloister, which nourished the fungi in the caves. Recently, though, the myconids have rejected Tarak's visit and placed a monstrous guardian at the entrance to the caves that keep all visitors away. The reason for this shift in the myconids' behaviour is that a blight has spread through the caves and is poisoning the myconids, twisting their gardens and even laying low their leader, Sinensa. And it's because of this dragon death underneath, Shareth. Noxious fumes from the tomb underneath, filtering up through the rock and vent to the surface. And the vent has become blocked, sort of backing up the gas and feeding it back into these caves where the fungus folk are. Now, as well as this insidious poison, the caves have sturges as well. Sturges are little annoying vampire bat type creatures. These blood-sucking monsters aren't much of a threat as one-offs, but when you get a few of them, they can be annoying. They basically come down and suck onto you and suck your blood away. So the ceilings of the caves are usually 20 feet, but in between, the tunnels in between the big areas are 15 foot. It's dim light throughout this area. The cave walls are formed from hexagonal columns of dark grey basalt, volcanic rock. The walls are bobbly and have hand and foot holds, so climbing the wall is easy. The toxic fumes from the volcano deep below the island are poisoning the fungi. A smell of sulphur pervades the place and grows stronger as you get deeper within. If the characters take a rest in these caves, they have to roll a DC 13 con save or they become poisoned. They can finish a rest in the fresh air outside to stop that condition. They can also cast lesser restoration. So to reach these caves you have 2 options. You can either take a rowboat and row out into the sea and back round again, or you can actually walk around the cliffs. It does take longer, it's a longer path by the cliffs, but actually because you're not fighting the tide, it's actually quicker to walk more miles. Now Tarak the NPC, who visited before, he does take a rowboat. Takes him 3 hours 20 minutes. That's not important. I can't imagine why you would be timing the travel. They either go by boat or they walk around. Oh, it takes you an hour or 2. So approaching by boat, or I suppose you could swim, or maybe fly, whichever. A cliff of dark grey stone towers 200 feet above the crashing waves, which rush in and out of a yawning cave mouth. A swirling slick of colours dances on the water's surface, emanating from the cave. Or, if they walk along the cliff paths, and there are steps coming down, an opening gapes in the cliff 200 feet below you, like a mouth drinking in the crashing waves. 2 natural stairways formed of stone columns offer ways down the cliffs. So entering the caves, there is a little bit of a mechanic here about whether the tide is in and up or out and low. So the caves fill with water, and then as the days move on, as the time in the day moves on, it gets lesser. Do you want to really follow this mechanic strictly? That's up to you. So from midnight to sunrise, it's a low tide and the water has receded. And then sunrise to the lunchtime, it fills up the cave and just keeps going like that. It's really your choice as a DM how you want the water level to be. So interacting with myconids. Now, if you've played Out of the Abyss in the Underdark, you will have already met myconids. But if not, this is a similar setup as in Out of the Abyss, in Neverlight Grove. The Myconids' initial attitude towards outsiders is hostile. They aren't malicious though, they don't resort to violence immediately. Adults use their rapport spores to telepathically warn visitors to leave. So they puff this gas out, and that makes you be able to communicate. Because they don't speak English, it's like telepathically they communicate beyond language. And sprouts are the children. So sprouts flee towards the nearest adults to warn them of intruders. If the characters attack the fungus folk, there will be a fight. To convince a hostile Myconid to converse or to allow the characters to do anything other than leave the caves, you must succeed on a DC 20 charisma save. Now the character needs to choose deception, intimidation or persuasion skill. And if you mention Tarak, who they kind of know, or present the offering he sent them, that will grant you advantage on the check. An indifferent Myconid is willing to explain what is going on in the caves. The sprouts only know that their leader, Sinensa, is ill, and there's a nasty smell in the caves. But Myconids know that the crystal cave is the source of the foul odour, and that Sinensa fell ill after going into that cave to investigate the issue. The Myconids normally avoid the cave because sunlight filters into it by way of the vent at the western end of the cave, and even soft, diffuse sunlight is unpleasant to these cave-dwelling creatures. So as we mentioned, the rapport spores that they puff out grant telepathic communication with people around it, effectively speaking thoughts at each other. This effect doesn't allow any creature to probe invasively into another's creature, it just transcends language. And you can play around with the kind of communication that the spores allow. The facial expressions might be difficult to read, but their telepathic communication might carry a direct expression of the emotional state. For example, when the Myconids talk about their ailing leader, the characters might feel a deep sadness and a sense of anxiety. Now, in Tomb of Annihilation that we're playing, there's a character called Dragonbait. He's not meant to speak, he's meant to just give off smells. So when he's running at a battle, you can smell ham. When he's scared, you can smell popcorn. It's kind of like that. It's just an interesting mechanic. So if you think you can handle doing something emotional or some interesting quirk like that rather than it just speaking like every other NPC, definitely go for that. Now this effect lasts for an hour. If your team are affected by it, even for another hour, you will be able to speak into each other's minds, which is pretty cool. So when the Myconids take damage, they release spores that alert all the other Myconids within 250 feet of them. Distress spores. So here we have the map in all its glory. So stairs, imagine stairs, you walk down here, wade or swim through this bit of water into B2. You can go up some steps to the top of the fountain and round, or you can just traverse around B3, up again, B4, B5, B6, as you can see. I think B2 has the Guardian monster. So, B1. Multicoloured fungus covers the walls of this tunnel. Its bioluminescent glow filling the cave with dim light. The surface of the water swirls with colourful, faintly glowing spores, perhaps reacting to the movement of something under the surface. At high tide, the tunnel is flooded, so visitors must approach by boat or swim. At low tide, walkways formed by the tops of stone columns line the sides of the tunnel, leading to a flight of natural steps up to Area 2. A spore servant octopus lurks in the water and attacks any creatures other than mushroom folk who enter the tunnel, regardless of the tide. Before the Myconid leader lapsed into unconsciousness, it created this guardian to keep outsiders away. Let's click on this thing. Spore Servant. Spore servants are dead creatures reanimated by the magical spores of a Myconid leader. The final act of the leader in Seagrove caves before lapsing into its current comatose state was creating a spore servant from a dead giant octopus to protect the cave while the leader could not. That makes sense. Unlike a living octopus, this guardian has only basic control over its tentacles rather than coiling round intruders to immobilise them. Alright, so they've toned it down. Now for me, those hit points would be 88. That's the way I play the game. It's got a very slow walking speed, but a very strong swim speed. It holds its breath for an hour while out of water. The octopus just breathes underwater. No languages, But if you have the rapport spores cast on it, you could probably talk to it in its head. So, tentacles. Why does it say octopus, large plant? I don't understand that. Anyway, tentacles, +5 to hit. 15-foot reach. That is the thing you must remember. 15, that's 3 squares away. You can just say it does 7 every time, or you can say roll a 1d8 +3 bludgeoning. You know what I would probably do? I would probably give it 3 attacks, but 1 or 2 every time has to just be a grapple. I'd have it like whip punching 1, holding 2, maybe smashing them together, throwing them. Only doing 7 damage, so you're not really cheating, you're just making it more interesting than ha 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 ha. It picks up a stone, picks up you, smashes them together, bops them on the head, but it's 7 damage every time, so, or 1d8 +3. Depends how many hit points your characters have. You can say that it knocks them unconscious if you do them to 0. Say, well, no, you're not dying, it just knocks you out and you float on the water. Make it exciting. Don't worry too strictly about the rules. So if the characters are already 2nd level because they've done Area 3 first, Chapter 3 first, 2 Sturges, 2, is that all? Cling to the tunnel ceiling and come down and fight. Sturges are these things. Yeah, they come down and drain your blood, which can be devastating if you're only a low-level dude. So once the octopus is taken care of, this 50-foot high cavern is a forest of multicoloured fungi, ranging from tiny filaments to tree-sized mushrooms. A natural staircase of stone columns along the east wall leads up 10 feet to a higher cave area in the north. Water bubbles down from that upper cave and collects in a large pool. 2 small mushroom-like people are working amid the mushrooms near the pond. A sickening smell, like sulphur, hangs in the air. 2 mushroom people are Myconid Sprouts, the children. Their names are here, Mollen and Kraz. Don't sweat it if that's going to become a problem. There are names later on. Make up your own, or write these in your preparation notes. The players don't know what they're supposed to be called, do they? As long as you stick with the right names, what you've decided. They are spreading fertiliser from Area B3, while 2 adults named Hipsis and Rugoso, I mean, why would you even bother? I'd generally go half and half. I'd say, call this one Hip and this one Rug. Easier. So they tend the mushrooms near the upper pool, out of sight from below. All 4 myconids are oblivious to the true threat, and that is 3 violet fungi that grow amongst the harmless mushrooms here. Let's check out those. They are these things. So yeah, you can't tell it from other things around it. Now this thing, you have to roll 1d4 for how many attacks it does. So that can be super. When you're in a plot of 3 of them like that, that could be 12 attacks, if you're lucky. If the characters move into the cave towards the myconids, 1 violet fungus attacks them, extending long tendrils that can cause immediate rot when they touch living flesh. Read this text. As you advance into the cave, a sickly-looking mushroom suddenly stirs to life. It extends long purple tendrils towards you and moves slowly across the cave floor on root-like tendrils. Because they move so slowly, it's easy for the characters to stay out of reach and kill them with ranged attacks. So because you've got 3 at your disposal, 1 starts to move and you can put them anywhere else you want the others. A character's like, I go over here, the other one comes right next to him, and then someone else is trying to get away, the 3rd one comes there. So you get some shots in as DM. It talks here about you can put fake ones in, ones that look like another one being still, but it's not, it's just a normal plant. Just keep the characters guessing as to the location of the total 3. So the children, the Myconid Sprouts, are non-combatants really. They just cast distress spores and make you bring in reinforcements if you need to. If the characters defeat this violet fungi, the Myconid's attitude improves from indifferent to they are willing to speak, a bit more friendly. A character who examines one of the fungi notices that the mushrooms are sickly and shriveled and blotched with black patches of decay, but the blight has no obvious source. Now this fungus farm that the Myconids are farming contains heart-cap mushrooms ready for harvest. A character needs to spend 15 minutes searching this chamber and succeed on a DC 12 nature or a survival check and finds 1d6 red mushrooms, which look like human hearts. Tarak can make each heart cap into a potion of healing. Pretty strong. Or you can have some of the Myconids be friendly and present the players with a red heart each to be made into a potion of healing, if you're trying to give them a good run for their money with hit points. If the characters are second level when they get here, you add another 2 violet fungi. B3. This cave reeks of rot and the floor is covered with a decaying vegetation. We're getting closer to the source of this poisonous gas. 3 small mushroom folk are working amid the filth. In the southwest corner of the cave, a bulbous object the size of a cart clings to the wall and ceiling, glistening like a glob of jelly. 3 myconid sprouts, named Bispo, Valup and Popple, work here, gathering fertiliser. The bulbous object is a sturge nest, which can be identified with a nature check of 15. If a character moves more than 5 feet into this chamber, 6 sturges emerge from the nest and attack. Meanwhile, the little sprouts flee to Area 4 at the first sign of intruders, relying on the distraction of the sturges. Again, add 2 sturges if the characters are a bit stronger. Nice bit of art. 6 clusters of giant mushrooms are arranged in a rough circle around this cave. Several human-sized mushroom folk stand in the centre of a circle in this cave. The smell of sulphur is stronger here. So 6 myconid adults. None of these names might ever come up, by the way. 2 of them, named Agaric and Omphalo, are tending to the other 4, Craterel, Pluro, Subrufus and Verosa. Why? Who are standing stock still in a dreamlike trance called a meld. It's just like Out of the Abyss. Experiencing a shared transcendent state. The two conscious myconids move quickly to confront any intruders who aren't escorted by other myconids, and they respond with violence to any threat. They are all fatigued, though. They are all ill. Sinensa's sanctum. Glowing fungus and colourful crystals grow from the walls and ceilings of this smaller cave. In the middle of the cave, 2 human-sized mushroom folk tend to a larger specimen of their kind. The large one is shriveled, covered with unhealthy purple blotches, and it does not move. So these 2 adult myconids are called Aronta and Enoch, and are tending the unconscious myconid who leads the colony. This is Sinensa. The adults collect spores from a barrel-sized glowing red fungus that resembles a human brain, and puff the spores around the leader's head. The treatment is keeping the leader alive for now, but it is a losing battle. Sinensa's only hope for this is for the blight to end. The adults zealously defend their leader, immediately attacking anyone who isn't accompanied by mushrooms. If the characters bring the glowing red fungus, called a ruby morel, back to the cloister, Tarot can use it to make an elixir of health. When you drink it, it cures you of any disease, removes blinded, deafened, paralysed and poisoned. The air in this cave is choked with thick smoke that assaults your nostrils with a pungent odour of brimstone. Strange flickering orange light illuminates the smoke. This area is free of fungal growth. Instead, crystals grow from the rock. To your right, a large cluster of purple crystals juts from the stone. On the far wall, a glowing orange crystal, wedged into a fissure in the cave wall, seems to be the source of the light. Streaks of soot trace a path along the cave walls between the purple crystals and the fissure. 2 fume drakes lurk amid the sulphurous fumes. These elemental creatures look like little dragons formed entirely of green smoke. They don't leave the cave, but rush to attack anyone that enters it. Fume drakes. One more time, please. Scalding breath. Fume drake exhales a 15-foot cold of scalding steam. Oh yeah, when they die, they blow up. I remember now. This cave is the source of the blight spreading through the myconid colony. As the characters explore the cave, they can determine the noxious fumes from deep beneath the island seep up through the vein of purple crystals. Ordinarily, the fumes would vent to the surface through a fissure in the west wall, but the fissure is now blocked by an enormous orange crystal, which is also the source of light here. The heart of the problem is the tomb of the red dragon Sharath, deep under the island. The presence of such a powerful dragon far underground causes the volcanic activity that produces these noxious fumes. What's more, the dragon's energy tears open small rifts in the fabric of reality that leads to the elemental plane of fire, another dimension of reality that is the cosmic source of fiery energy. The plane of fire is the origin of both the orange crystal, blocking the vent, which is actually an egg, and the creatures currently in the cave, the fire crystal. Destroying the orange crystal, blocking the western fissure, allows the noxious fumes to escape out of the cave and stops the blight harming the myconids. A single strong whack with a weapon, a crowbar or whatever, will shatter it. The crystals break. A 2-foot diameter sphere of smouldering obsidian falls to the floor amid the other pieces and then breaks open, releasing a fire snake. So this looks quite cool. Vulnerable to cold because it's fire. Okay. Immune to being hit with fire. Can't speak. If you hit it with a melee attack, you take a d6 fire damage. It makes 2 attacks, one with its tail, one with its bite. It's only a +3, but it does 3 + 3 on average damage, and then next it does 3 + 3. So 6 average damage to keep things quick on each attack. Breaking the fire crystal also reveals the reason the myconids avoid this cave. This cave is immediately filled with shimmering sunlight refracted through the crystals that line the vent. Bright light fills the entire area. The fire snake's egg breaks into 25 chunks of obsidian worth 10 gold each. If the characters are 2nd level, add a 3rd fume drake to the room when they first arrive. Then, at the same time, the fire snake hatches from its egg. 2 more fume drakes emerge from the cluster of purple crystals. If the characters destroy the orange crystal, the fumes escape the cave, and the attitude from the myconids is friendly. Sinensa, the leader, regains consciousness the next day. You got to wait the next day? Just regains consciousness in a while. Have time pass a little. If the characters are present when Sinensa awakens, she gives them a ruby moral and permission to keep any other treasure or mushrooms they collected in the cave. Again, a ruby moral can make an elixir of health. You gain a level after finishing this chapter, no matter what level you started on in here. If they've already explored chapter 3, they can go to chapter 4. And simply, that is the 2nd chapter. Thanks for watching, keep your eye out for the next chapter, and check out this other video to see if you like it. Thanks for watching, guys. See you later.